Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Happiness is Real morning show. I'm your host, Camilla Calberg, founder of Calberg Coaching and transformational coach. This episode is brought to you by Calberg Coaching, where we help executives create a better life on the other side of today. To learn more and how to book a discovery conversation, go to www.calbergcoaching.com. And with this, let's go into today's episode. I am so excited to introduce you to Mike Clarke. Mike is a 50-year-old lovely man, divorced twice, with two lovely girls brought up, and they are now women. Mike has spent 30 years learning about emotional intelligence, psychology of behavior, and how to be a good man. Today, Mike runs an amazing company, is an emotional intelligent coach and tutor, and has just celebrated 50 years was the anniversary of your business. And I noticed that, Mike, earlier this week. I'm so happy. I'm so thrilled to welcome you. So once again, welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Camilla. Thank you very much. What a lovely introduction. I feel like a superstar.
And you are on my show. So, Mike, with that introduction, let's jump into that. The reason why I wanted, and I reached out to you and inviting you as a featured guest is that divorce has no gender, right? And we suffer. It's men and women who suffer. And sometimes, at least what I know to be true, is that women tend to ask maybe quickly for help, and also maybe they have their friends and talk a bit more. But men, at least those I have in another my business, they seem to suffer a little more different, and maybe they're even more hit. And so this episode is to really out to all these very special men who want to get out of that comfort zone, want to be inspired that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and how to do that. And you are an amazing example. You have two lovely daughters, and you run your own company. So with that, tell us a bit more about yourself.
Well, if I start at the beginning, I met a lovely young lady when I was about 18 or 19. And by the time we were 25, we're married with a house and everything goes great and children are born. And then sort of like 10 years into this relationship, things change because, of course, we grow up, don't we? We mature and our outlooks change. And certainly the cracks start to appear. But to the outside world, it all looks really good. And then, of course, sort of 15 years into the relationship, it's pretty much dead in the water, but we're still going. And, for me as a young man at that point, you kind of keep it to yourself. You're very isolated. You don't share with anybody. I'm talking sort of, sort of 2000 and sort of like, 9 or 10 now. It's not good. Things are really quite bad. In fact, we can hardly get along at all. It's not even a platonic relationship. It's quite toxic, and of course, the poor children, my girls, are watching these two people fall out and fight and really can't even be civil to each other. And a couple of years after that, it fell apart completely. And I left that home with very, very little, because in the UK, not in every case, but in most cases, you leave the house that you've built and worked on, and you start again in a bedsit. And in my case, I was really lucky. I had a little house that I found, and my girls could come and see me. And what we tried to do was we tried to deal with the aftermath of these two children who were both under 13, to deal with the fact that mum and dad aren't together. They were quite happy we weren't together, because they could see instantly we were happier by not being together. But of course, they become this thing in the middle, don't they? And so for the first few months,
we are getting some.
You okay? I don't know whether I should continue, because it's gone. You've frozen my end.
Now we're back, Mike.
Hello, we're back. I thought it froze my end. It's okay. So I got to the point where, so in the first 3 or 4 months, I moved out, and I think that the freedom was great. It was very strange being on my own after spending most of my adult life up to that point with a person. Really strange. Nobody to talk to. And I did, and you're absolutely right. I didn't ask for help. I didn't know where to go for help. And I didn't have, if you like, somebody that I could go to that could check that the decisions I was making were okay. So I was kind of like a really naughty school child, and I could do whatever I liked because there was nobody to guide me. And I made stupid mistakes. I went out quite a lot and socialized, because I'd never really socialized. When you're in a sort of a toxic marriage, you kind of stay at home, don't you, really? And you get stuck in a rut. So I was out at the pub 2-3 nights a week watching football, seeing people. And it was in that I made what was probably the biggest mistake of anything. Instead of healing, which I've now learned that you should do, give yourself time to work out what you're doing and to deal with that old relationship. What I did was, I met a girl. And of course, it's exciting because I'd been starved of love, if you like, and starved of being able to give somebody else love for such a long time that you jump into it head first rather than feet first. And you get involved. And before I knew where I was married again. Within a year, far too soon. And I was only with her for a couple of years and it all went wrong. And I know why it went wrong, because I wasn't ready. So as you start to get involved in this second relationship, you realize very quickly you've not only made a bad decision, but you're compounding it by staying and making it worse. So it ended quite quickly. And I came out of that relationship and I spent 4 years on my own. And all I did is I had my girls, and we just basically got a boot camp, a little place of our own. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to sit still. I need to deal with an awful lot of stuff I've not dealt with yet. So that was 2 relationships I had to work through. And again, I didn't have anybody to talk to start with. But then by being divorced, you come across other people that are also divorced, and you start to share, don't you? And that's when you start to realize that actually, my only request of anybody listening to this, if you are thinking of divorce or you're going through a divorce, whether you're male or female, don't do it on your own. Please don't. And that isn't because my second marriage taught me any other lessons. It didn't. What it did, unfortunately, the second relationship, is it kind of caused problems between my first wife and me, which we were already acrimonious, but it made it worse. It also made the children even more sort of in the middle of all this entanglement, which I thought was unfair. Now I'm back on it, if you like, stupid and in love. That doesn't mean to say I was sensible or logical, you know. So and here's the interesting thing that runs alongside all of that. From the age of 22, I'd been learning about emotional intelligence, and I've been teaching it. I've been teaching managers in corporate organizations the benefits of how your behavior can affect somebody else. So if you're going to behave properly, do it, that kind of thing. And yet in the home, no chance. It was like, you get a friend who's a painter and decorator, and theirs is the last house to get decorated, or a builder who's really good at building, but they still haven't put their patio in their back garden. It was like that kind of thing going on. And so in the 4 years, what I did was I just concentrated on me, and I used what I'd learned to try to fathom who I was, fathom what happened, not see it as bad things, but as lessons that I should have learned from and started to learn from. Do you know what I mean?
I know.
So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
It's are you still with me? We're having some internet abrupt, but anyway, but thank you so much. You're just setting the scene, because it's so important what you just shared. It's like, first of all, the last going from the end is like what you teach is what we don't take our own medicine, but as much as this also emphasizes that you've been like craving for love and you jump in and again, but divorcing is, as we talked about just before going on live, is that divorce is the second highest stressor any human being can experience. And that's why it's so important. You mentioned yourself, ask for help. And so, but it was so brave that after the second marriage, and it failed, there's like, my dear friend and coach Fritz is on here, like lovely sharing, decided to sit still. You took that very conscious decision to pause and reflect and work on yourself and to heal. And tell me more about how very important decision, you took a decision to heal and to stop and pause. How did you get to that point?
Well, when I came out of the back of that marriage, as you can imagine, my 2 girls obviously are the thing that I go by my children. and they were quite broken and damaged and hurt by it all. And if you like, my really good relationship with them in that sort of 2.5 year relationship with that second woman had deteriorated. And you know, when your children don't listen to you and won't listen to you, you kind of know you're not being as good a parent as you could be, because the art of being a parent is that hopefully they do actually listen and that they do want to come back and hear what you've got to say. And so when we come out of that relationship, I knew that those two relationships had in some way been damaged. And I kind of looked at it, and because I'm very much empathic, very much compassionate, I looked at them and thought, I've done this to them. And I looked at it and thought, you know, and I thought, this is what it, not that fault needs to be apportioned, because I think with divorce, people love to apportion some blame somewhere. I didn't apportion blame at my doorstep. I just took responsibility. I stopped and went, I need to stop doing this. And I need to make sure that I don't do it again. Sorry, Camilla, you were saying something.
No. That was maybe it's my end, but that was internet disconnections again. So I didn't get it all. I didn't get all your goal.
Say it again, sorry. No. I'll say it again.
So
for
maybe
me,
you can just summarize what you just said, like your crossroads experience.
So for me, when I left, the two people that I sort of navigate my world by are my girls, two girls. And so after this second relationship, my relationship with them had been damaged and tarnished because of the second relationship, because it did cause all innumerable problems for everybody. And for me, when I came out, I'm kind of like, I took responsibility for that. I didn't lay blame at my feet that it had happened and that they'd been damaged by it. I just took responsibility for it and thought, I'm not doing this anymore because it's not fair on them. And I want a good relationship with my two daughters. Of the two people on the face of the earth that I really do need to make sure, other than myself, I've got a good relationship with. And so what I did is I just sort of put my head down and just started working. And I had no idea, I had no governance, no direction. And if I'd have met somebody like you could have probably given me that structure within which to work. And I kind of fumbled around for a little while and was a bit numb. And then eventually you start to find a place where you start to deal with some of the things that have happened. And so I spoke to the girls quite a lot, and they were really good. And we had very, very open discussions about what had happened and how they'd been affected. And I didn't explain what happened to them as if to make an excuse or give them a reason, but I explained it just because, I guess, as an adult, I was trying to say to them, you can make mistakes. You're young women. And if you've watched me do it, you know, if you like, wrong, even though I was trying to do the right thing, then for you to know what I was thinking and what was going on in those moments, it isn't for you to feel angry towards me or the people involved in it. It's for you to possibly learn the lesson that when it's your turn, what can you do instead? And, you know, they're very, very wise. And, you know, they gave me a lot of rope to repair those things that had happened between us, and they did. And it was sort of 4 years later that I met another lady, and I was with her for a little while, and that was good. But with that relationship, I ended that after a couple of years just because some of the red flags started to appear. And when I started to question or query, there wasn't, as far as I was concerned, a sufficient enough movement on the other side. And I went, I'm not going to do this again then. I don't want to invest another 23 years with someone. I don't need immovable objects. I need someone that's flexible like me and will grow and wants to get past whatever it is. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes so much sense. And I say, sometimes this words, I'm so into that. I can't find the words. But first of all, I would say, so congratulations with your awareness and this open conversation with your girls. And then because you are a mirror of how to live life and how to perform and how to show up. And that's what is so difficult when we go through divorce. Are you with me, Mike?
Yeah, no, I am with you.
Yeah. And then having that conversation and say, okay, but it's learned. We can never make a mistake, but we can always learn. And then it's like, okay, but if you would ever experience a stress, could you do differently? Don't just copy what it did. And I think that is so much honor, and the conversations or the move that you made, that because that's what I learned the hard way. And that's what I'm teaching my clients now. Be so aware, because the verbal and non-verbal communication your children will mirror. I'm so proud of that you made that move, Mike. And so congratulations again. But you're creating you're building your awareness. Like, so when jumping into the other relationship, and maybe that was not serving you, then you just made a conscious decision to actually that no more let that relationship be the king or the queen in your life, but actually something is better is waiting on the other side of that relationship.
Absolutely. I think the thing for me is during those 4 years, I was waiting for something within me to go, you're ready, as if to do it properly this time. And when I met as I said, when I met the next lady I was with for a couple of years, I was absolutely ready. But what I then went into was a relationship with somebody who wasn't ready, because they hadn't done theirs. And over the 2 years, it started to unfurl. And like you, I tried to support them to be able to find that place, but they just didn't want to go. And again, that's why I went, you know what, you need to do this on your own, because I did. And you'll come out of it a better person. And maybe next time you'll be more ready to accept, because a relationship is a very complex thing. And you just need to be very aware of each other. You need to be very compassionate and empathic. You need to negotiate even the simplest of things and do it with real honor and dignity for each other. Because, you know, it's just really important, isn't it, to sort of hold that person with the greatest of deference, like you would if it were a royalty you were working with. You would bow and curtsy, and you would be totally respectful. And the thing that I'm looking for this time round, if you like, if I come across the right lady, is I want someone that knows that there's no such thing as a honeymoon period, that we can be as madly in love 3, 10, 15 years later as we are when we first meet. It isn't just a short-term hit. In fact, for me, it's a red flag if someone 3 months in has already started to wane a little bit in their enthusiasm, because for me, I can't wait to find somebody that I can whoop and holler with, you know? You've disappeared and I'm on my own. Well, if there's anybody watching and it's just me and you can hear me, I should really have a guitar by now, and I could play some songs that are relevant to this sort of subject. Ever fallen in love with someone you shouldn't have fallen in love with? What a great tune that is. Teenage Kicks.
Yes. I'm bad. I have some very bad connections, Mike, so sorry for this.
It's okay. It's all right. I kept talking while you were away, just in case there's people watching and they can see me and they can't see you. I don't know.
Yeah. I think we get to go do this another time where we have better internet connections.
Yeah.
But just so I'm inviting you back on stage, Mark, and back in studio, because this is such a powerful conversation to have, and but just to not to end it just now, but like because we know there are so many other, like, this session is really for men, but also women coming in, and like there's so many golden keys that you're given here about heal yourself before you jump into the next relationship. I've met many women or men who jumped into the next relationship, and they can't understand why the kids are suffering, and they want mommy time or dad time, and they complain that they have to give, and so healing is so important, and take care of your children. But if you were to give one or three advices to our listeners going through divorce, or maybe after having healed, what would that be?
Goodness me, what a responsibility. Hang on. 3 things that I would give advice. If you are thinking you're going to get divorced, or you just got divorced, without a doubt, please find someone to talk to straight away. Particularly somebody experienced, as Camilla is, or I am, but particularly Camilla, in what it is to be divorced, because what you need is, you need guidance. You really do need guidance. You need somebody in the adult world who can talk to you that isn't emotionally connected to what's going on, because and if you trust your relationship with the person that you talk to, they'll only ever guide you with your best interests at heart. The second thing is how you heal. It's not about a timeline, really. It's about dealing with the bigger subject. So for me, I didn't feel I was worthy okay, of being loved when I first met my first wife. So what I accepted was something that was not quite equal. Does that make sense? When I
I
went
heard
into my
that so many times. It makes so much sense. Yeah.
yeah, and so there's so that's that. The third one, the anger. Get rid of the anger. I had anger within me and resentfulness about both marriages. And I remember the first time distinctly driving to and from work, chundering to myself about all the injustices of all of it. And it struck me, this is that when I come out of the second marriage, I was doing the same thing in the second marriage after that ended. And I remember I just pulled the car over and stopped, turned the ignition off. It was really late at night. And I'd sat there and started to cry. And I just thought, I want this anger to go, because when I'm angry, I'm not thinking logically. The nonsense that comes out of me is rubbish and wouldn't stand up in a court of law and wouldn't help my children. And if anybody heard me, they'd think that I was the nastiest person alive. So I want it to go. And so the reason to heal is to get rid of that, because what I've put in place of that is, now, when I talk to my children about my first wife, it's only ever with respect. So when they go and spend time with their mum, how is your mum? And at the moment, my first wife is not at all well. And the two girls who are now women are very concerned about it. And they come home and they talk to me about it. And I sit and listen. Whereas 6 years ago, I wouldn't have listened. I'd have gone, I don't want to talk about that. It's nothing to do with me. I don't talk about her. I don't like her. What good is that to them? So I've replaced the anger with what should be there as respect for this woman, and you know, for the second relationship, the anger went because when I realised that it was me that was the problem, and not actually the relationship or her. Does that make sense? If I had have understood what boundaries were, had I have realised my own worth, I wouldn't have entered into a relationship where somebody treated me less than what I was worth. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of the advice I would give.
Wow, thank you so much. I mean, first of all, I'm just noting it down. Talk, get guidance. I can only support that. And that is my mission in life, because I've been there and I got it, but I'm exploring it. I'm not, but when you have children, and the one partner is still a bit aggressive, you still have to navigate in that space, right? But at least what you can do is to heal. So that is very important. And you say, right, it's about talking to someone, or the right one, who has been a divorced self, because talking with someone who hasn't had experience, it's like you don't get the right advice.
No.
And then how you, sorry, go on.
No, please summarize, because I was going to interrupt you. Carry on.
Yeah. And then number two, you said, is that how you heal is that feeling unworthy of love. I haven't been there myself, but I've probably been in the middle of that when I was in this toxic relationship. And I actually want to talk just shortly about toxic, actually. But there's so many people who, because they were in a relationship that didn't serve them, and you mentioned that just before, it's like that they're not feeling worthy of love, not feeling worthy of success, not feeling worthy of an amazing, abundant life. That really can crave you maybe for staying in that relationship because you're afraid of leaving and going out and escape, but I should also heal what's inside you. Is it that whatever trauma that is, heal it. And then I would so applaud you about you, and that's the reason why you are this amazing coach. There's emotional intelligence about anger, right? You read yourself and say, okay, no more anger, and then treat each other with respect. That is, I don't have statistics on that, but I think that is a big improvement in amongst our adult network here on LinkedIn, even to treat each other with respect.
It is, absolutely. And the thing is, for me, the big thing that I've come out of these 3 very big relationships that I've had as an adult, nobody is a project. That's the biggest thing I've learned after 3, is that I went into each relationship. I was hoping that because of my knowledge and my skills and my experiences as a human being, learning those wonderful subjects and helping people in a workplace, that I could somehow help these lovely people sort of deal with themselves, or help them to deal with themselves. And actually, what I've decided is I don't want that. I want you to have done that project. So when I meet the next woman, I'm going to be asking those kind of questions. It sounds like an interrogation, the poor person, but it won't be. but it'll be, I want you to have dealt with things. I don't want you to have issues around things like those things, because I suppose my thing is now I'm 52. I don't know how much more time I've got to spend with someone else. And I do want to share a life with someone. I do want to experience the highs and lows with someone that can laugh and cry with me. But I don't have time to be dealing with, if you like, their lack of development. Does that make sense as a human being? You know, and so that's a real difficult conundrum, isn't it? Because people have to be open and vulnerable, like you and I are being here now, talking about what we did, for others to judge us or to make comment on what happened to us as if they know. Do you know what I mean? And it's that thing of vulnerability is one big part of being in a partnership, but doing so with someone that won't then use that against you, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, it makes so much sense. And then when you mentioned about whether you don't want to spend time, so it's not like what Dr. Joe Dispenza says, it's like become greater than the environment. And if you haven't healed, so you and I have healed and we've become a better version of ourselves. And it's so quickly to spot now. And that's who I invite in as clients, is that those who want to get out of their comfort zone and become a better version of themselves. And that's just so easy to spot, we say, but also like, where do you want to invest your time? What is your time best invested, and what you want to get out of it, really?
Yeah, I mean, for me, that I'm a romantic at heart, so I want somebody that absolutely wants to love from the tip of their toes to the point of their nose. It's as simple as that. And it'd be completely transparent and open and honest, because what will happen when that happens, for me, there'll be untold joy. I've yet to feel what I call real joy. You know, where you feel completely safe, where you know you can be your worst, your best, and your ugliest and your prettiest all at the same time, and that person accept all of it. That's a place to be, isn't it? There are people out there that do it the first time. My eldest daughter has got a boyfriend who's, well, now a fiance. They're going to get married, and this is their first ever relationship. And I'm so proud of them. Every time I see them, I can't but cry. It's bizarre. And they go, "Why do you always cry when you see us?" I said, "Because you're my favourite couple."
Oh,
because
lovely.
they've nailed it all down. I said to them, "You've done." I said the things that both of them have learned from watching their parents get divorced has helped them to create a relationship which is so pure and honest. It would bring you to tears if you met them, because you'd be like, "How did you do that at such a young age?" Phenomenal. It's great.
And that, it was just, I mean, the story just, my body is reacting now. But what the point is here, if I may peel the onion, I may really, is that show up as the best version of yourself, because your kids will mirror you. And so you may not understand why your kids are misbehaving or don't listen, or not, like making all this being not a good student in school, but that is because your environment is toxic, or you are not showing up. And so just, I can feel my body stretching. It's such an important message. So thanks so much for sharing that, and just ending it with a really nice image, right? Because it's all about the future and the inspiration here. Mike, just before we are closing, that's one thing I want to talk about, because you mentioned yourself. It's about toxic relationship. And I started off talking and opening my business, or focusing my coaching business on divorce, because I've been in this verbally abused relationship, and that was toxic. It's really toxic. But it is like, and the thing is, and it may be maybe a bit controversial, or people will say, "Oh, we're not in toxic." But you mentioned toxic as well. And toxic is not just being about in a verbal abusive relationship, a psychological abusive relationship, but being a toxic relationship is a relationship that doesn't serve you, and it really is toxic, whatever form and shape it has. So how did that toxic relationship, how does that show up in your case or your experience?
Can I show you something that changed it for me? I keep this wherever I go. This book is about internal dialogue. Okay. And what this book, and so Dr. Thomas Anthony Harris, about 1967, wrote that book. And what the book is about, it's about internal dialogue, because we talk to ourselves. Okay. Now, if my internal dialogue is you're not good enough and you should accept this, you should be lucky this girl likes you, that kind of thing, right? Then you will accept and tolerate the toxic behaviors which other people may want to, either intentionally or otherwise, put in your, if you like, imagine like a tennis court, they serve you toxicity, you take it and you hold on to it, you don't serve it back. Whereas when you learn that actually you don't have to accept stuff, you can serve it back. The bizarre thing is when you start serving back that toxic, they disappear and find somebody else to play with. They don't want to play with you. And that's what that book is about. It teaches you to deal with yourself first so that you can recognize times when you are not doing, as you said, how can you be your best version of yourself if actually you don't think very much of yourself?
Yeah.
And, you know, as I said, my eldest daughter said, Dad, my relationship with this man is because of you. And I said, well, goodness me, that's a compliment and a half. I said, I can't really take credit for that because you've done all the hard work. But, you know, certainly for me, working on yourself, critical, absolutely critical. Make sure you work yourself. Without a doubt, if you are listening to this and you're going to get divorced, or you know anybody that's going to get divorced, or they're going down that road, for goodness sake, get hold of Camilla. You need guidance. If I'd have had the guidance, I do believe I would have spent longer between the two marriages being in a healing mode. I'd have had much more guidance and structure. I more than likely would have come out of it even better, much more quickly. Does that make sense? I know I've arrived there now, but I did it on my own. I really wish I'd had a mate. Do you know what I mean? Somebody I could have gone to and gone, it's all going wrong, you know, that kind of thing.
And, you know, so thanks so much for, because that's the reason why I have this show, is to inspire other people to reach out. And I was lucky to have a coach on me, on my team, and I very quickly got all the other people on my team. And that's how I heal fast and how I healed my daughter. And she's, I don't know what to call it in English, but they say, Camilla, it takes 10 years before she healed. It took less than a year. Yeah. So that's getting the right people on your team is so important. Mike, as we're coming to the end, if people want to get in touch with you and hear more about your story and the services that you do, how can people get hold of you?
Well, obviously I'm on LinkedIn. I'm doing quite well there. I've only been on it about a year and I've got about 4,000 followers, I think it is. That's quite extraordinary, really. And on there, I talk about emotions and what life can throw at us and how, and some strategies and tools within the content that can help you to think about who you are and what you're doing. Other than that, I've got like if you go on the LinkedIn, there's an email address there and there's telephone numbers and that kind of thing. So yeah, people can get hold of us. That's for sure.
Lovely. And I will put the link, if you send me the link to the book, and I will put the book in the show notes, and we can put that out to our network. Thanks. So with this, that's ending in the show for today. If you found value in it, please take a moment to drop me a comment as well as a screenshot, and share this episode on your favorite social platform or platforms to help your friend and maybe your male friends and your loved ones thrive during major life transformations or transitions as divorces. And always remember, and Mike's story is as well, evidence of that, happiness is real. Wherever you are on your divorce journey, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and the next chapter of your life can truly be your best one yet. And that's what you just really advocated for. I'm so happy for that. And it's my honor to be on your journey, and inviting a featured guest in this here as Mike Clarke, and to help you through the divorce process, or your divorce process. That's wrap up today's episode. Remember to tune in daily for inspiration and practical to help you create a more thriving, better, and more abundant life on the other side of divorce. And with this, that ends up today's Sunday special with you. Thank you so much for joining me here live.
You're welcome. Thank you, Camilla. Take care of yourself.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.